You're listening to the Accordion to Me podcast with Veronique Medrano. Hi, I'm Veronique, and on this week's episode, we chat with Sailor Tortilla. Yeah, you heard that right, aka Age. This Latina is one of the top content creators online for the beloved 90s manga and anime Sailor Moon. Whether it's reviewing the latest merch and toy releases for the anime manga or traveling out to Japan to give fans the up-close look into the sights and culture of the country, this is one episode you don't want to miss if you're a big otaku. So sit back, relax for another episode with Sailor V, i.e. Sailor Me.
This podcast is sponsored by Cricket Wireless. I recently made the switch to Cricket, and they removed the extra hassle of staying connected and calling within the US and Mexico. And trust me, that is always an issue with every other service provider except for Cricket. Make the switch and join the Cricket Comunidad with me, Veronique. And if you think that's too good to be true, then download the Try Cricket app from the App Store to start your free trial of nationwide 5G that covers 99% of folks in the US. It's just one reason why people who come to Cricket stay with Cricket.
One trial per person, 5 people per home address. An unlocked GSM-compatible smartphone is required. Cricket 5G requires a compatible device and is not available everywhere. For 5G coverage, see cricketwireless.com/map for more details.
Hi, thank you so much for joining me.
That was an incredible intro. I'm never going to be able to match that ever. Thank you.
I've been following you for a while. We've been chatting for what feels like years now. And I love meeting fellow Moonies, but I think this is just so special because we are coming up on the release of the final installment of, I want to call it Sailor Crystal, the final installment of the movies. And there is just so much to talk about, but tell us a little bit about yourself. Before we get into the bochinche of everything Sailor Moon, tell us a little bit about you.
For sure. So, yep, I'm Sailor Tortilla online. My friends call me Age, so everybody's my friend. I've been collecting since 1995, believe it or not. I was a weird kid. I kept all my boxes, and then I grew up and I kept doing it. So it's kind of what I love. I also watch other anime, but Sailor Moon's got a special place in my heart.
And you're saying you watch other anime. Do you have another page for just the other aspects of what you watch and something that's not directly Sailor Moon focused?
No, that's a great question. I have another channel that I probably haven't touched in 2 or 3 years. So if I do put stuff, it's on Super Tortilla, but I guess that's going to have to be the name for if it gets an Instagram, I'm stuck with Super Tortilla. But yeah, it's I like to do reaction videos more than anything on that one. It's just an outlet. It's all of this is all a creative outlet, collecting all of it, even organizing it to some extent. You get a lot out of collecting.
I'll say this. I have a Sailor Venus doll I don't want because that was the only doll that my mother could find. And my mom, and mind you, we found a Sailor Moon doll and it was the only one I had, but I didn't care about having it in the box because I just loved the show so much. And so it was my Sailor Moon doll and I was going to say Sailor Padme. It's not Sailor Padme. It's Padme Amidala from episode 1. And so that kind of tells you about the time I started collecting, because that collecting or even just having dolls, but those were the dolls. Those were the dolls that I got. It was the Sailor Moon doll with no nose. But I have just a special place in my heart for the little pinch, the little pinched face, and I didn't care. And then when they came out with the second edition, I was like, death to this nose doll. No.
Do you know what they call those?
What do they call them?
They call them frog face dolls.
Oh my God.
That's a deep cut.
Mind you, I think the Sailor Venus doll that I have is a frog face doll that's still in a box. The box has been damaged a bit. So sorry to all those collectors out there. I'm not I'm not a super huge collector. I think at a certain point I was just like, I just want to enjoy it. I put them on cakes sometimes. Like I put random Funko Pops. Oh my God, some Funko person is going to absolutely lose their shit for me saying that. I use the little stands. I've put them on cakes. I've done all that. But I really enjoyed that. But like, when was the first time that like you really expressed your creativity? I'm so curious. Like, is it
Like
something
in
that's a
general?
part of your daily life? Yeah, in general, is it a part of your daily life, or did this show kind of spark something for you, and then you were creative?
Yeah, so I think that it's a two-part answer. So I come from a very creative family, like artists, florists. My mom is a balloon artist, believe it or not. Um, yeah, so like lots of arts and crafts. Like almost all the paintings in the house were like done by a family member. So I just had that little bug, the creative bug inside of me, and I started video editing. Do you remember AMVs, anime music
Oh my
videos?
God, yes. I love them to death. There's
They're
this
still
one.
so good.
Oh, they're so good, but I hate the fact that they get taken down now on YouTube and everywhere else a lot more than they used to. Like the first one that still sticks with me to this day. I don't think it exists anymore. Was The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, Neutron Star Collision AMV. And that absolutely floored me. That AMV, which is for those who do not know what an AMV is an anime music video. And so when Naruto was super big in the 2000s, all of us would try to figure out how to get on YouTube at school, which we weren't supposed to at the high school, and look up. And that was the one that a lot of AMVs, like, I think if we're going to say like anime music videos using popular music got super huge, I would say it's the 2000s. Like that's when it just was crazy. And so you were super into AMVs. And so tell us a little bit about that.
So I wanted to make them. So I was really lucky. My middle school actually offered video editing, like as a class. And I just took all of that knowledge home. Like I'm like 12 years old, 11 years old, whatever. And it's Windows Movie Maker. Okay, let's go. Let's download the files. Where like the resolution was like probably like 100 by 200, like something terrible like that. This is like the early days of DSL. And I just started going at it. For me, it was Linkin Park.
Oh yes, how many
Always.
Linkin Park songs? It's everything rock. I will say that. I think rock. I know I'm going to get this wrong. Hammerstein or Ramstein.
Ramstein. One of my top favorite bands ever.
I'm so sorry, I
Still.
messed it up. But
No, it's
Ramstein
okay.
Ramstein was a huge one that got a bunch of AMV treatment. Linkin Park. I'm trying to think of
I used to
another
make
one.
AFI ones.
There we go. That was the band. I was like, I could not remember what was the other band. And I always wondered if they ever saw those videos. Like they make their own like really highly produced videos, but if I ever get to interview them, I will ask this question on your
know.
behalf. I will ask this question on your behalf because I have always wanted to know if major rock artists that were big in the 2000s had ever seen these videos of like anime with their stuff.
Yeah, what would they think of them?
I you know what? That is a question. That is a question for another time, but that is a question.
We'll put a pin in that.
We're going to put a pin in that.
Yeah, but to make a long story short, I liked video editing when I was in middle school, went to high school. Sailor Moon was nowhere to be found. Like, it was out of the public conscious, like off TV. No one was thinking about it. And then one day, minding my own business, I go to it was a Sailor Moon event when the manga came out again in America, which was like 2013. We got a re-release of the whole comic. We did an event at a comic shop, and I met Sailor Samara, who's another creator just like me. She does almost the exactly same thing, different collection, beautiful collection. Met her, found out she was sharing her pictures of her collection online, and I was like, people want to see this? Like, I literally just have it on the wall. No one's looking at it except me. And I kind of just started, little bits and pieces. All right, Windows Movie Maker all over again. Maybe a different version of it, but and then like little by little, like my channel, if you go to like the earliest videos, they're terrible. It's horrible.
Don't go back there.
No.
It's behind the red door. Do not open the red door.
Yeah, I think I have like a completely different set of teeth like at that point. So all that to say, it is a creative outlet entirely, and mostly just because like, oh, I have this and people want to see it. Cool. Like literally cool. And I guess that's the story, right?
Well, you're telling me.
I don't know. I was there. I don't remember.
Well, what's funny is I must be a deep cut nerd. So my Sailor Moon experience started as a hand-me-down comic. So I don't know how many people know this, but Sailor Moon, when it was in the States in the 90s, like late 90s, early 2000s, like literally like 2001, like 90, somewhere around there. It was on PBS, and then it was on NBC, and then it eventually went to Cartoon Network. I want you all to know that
Do you want to hear my list? It's different by state.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, the same time it's on PBS, let us not talk about this. It was on either Telemundo or Univision. I can't remember which station had it in Spanish. So so like I'm on the border. Let's all clarify that I live on the border. So we have easy access to Televisa, Telemundo, Univision, like all the Spanish stations are like on basic cable, even basic just TV. It was on a Spanish station at the same time as on PBS, and then it continued to be on a Spanish station throughout that whole time. But then you get like, because all the newer seasons were showing there first, and then here like almost months, if not like at least a year later, because of just how English dubbing works. And so like it was such a weird cacophony of culture where I'm listening to it in Spanish, and if I can catch it on like Saturday or even like on a weekday, like randomly on a Spanish station, I'll watch it, and then watching it in English. So like that was just the duality of my life that I got to live. But yeah, what channels am I missing now? I'm super curious, depending on state.
Well, first off, let me say I'm so jealous, like literally jealous. All my Mexican friends would come back with like floppy disks of like GIFs, like literally like GIFs of like the Sailor Starlights. They'd be like, here, secret characters. And I'm like, what? Okay, fine. Okay, I'm from Virginia. I live in Florida. In Virginia, it was on USA. And then I came here. It was on UPN. And then it was on, before all of those, it was on Fox. So Fox, USA, UPN, occasionally around the same time, which was weird. You'd catch it at 7 a.m. and then in the afternoon. And then Cartoon Network after that. Like it bounced around way, way too much. And like, how many times did we rewatch the first episode? Because they would just reset every time.
Yes.
I've probably seen that episode thousands of times by this point.
Oh my God. That first episode. Well, not just that, but like as you get into the later seasons for the 90s, we didn't get, and this goes back into like just US, I don't know what the word is. Thank you. Censorship. So like this is crazy. I didn't realize how many episodes there were. So I lived a life where I didn't realize how much filler. I'm gonna air quote filler here because I think those filler episodes did add a lot of depth to the characters. And that's kind of a difference in comparison to maybe other shows that they didn't do that till later. Like even more modern shows didn't really add depth to their filler episodes. Bleach. And so, yeah, they heard that. I know they heard that. I don't give a shit. And so they could come for me in the comments. And so, it wasn't until later, like quite recently, that filler episodes actually had depth to characterization. And that's what Sailor Moon did for a lot of the characters. But yeah, that's crazy how much that show hopped around for people. and I'm trying to remember. It wasn't just Cartoon Network, because Cartoon Network is Cartoon Network, but it was on a very specific channel of Cartoon Network. I think it's Toonami, which was where it kind of stayed. And like at 3 o'clock, I would rush home to watch it, to sit and watch it. And I would be pissed if I got picked up late from school and did not get to watch the show. Like if I miss, because once you miss it, commercials and all, you miss way too much on the show. You just miss way too much.
Yeah, same. I feel like the Toonami experience is like so universal for like people our age. Just because it was also like straight bangers. Like, I don't know why Reboot was on there, but Reboot was great. You had DBZ for the first time. So my husband's French, and he can't believe that we didn't get DBZ until like basically the 2000s.
Yeah.
Like that show's from like 89. Straight bangers though.
Like I remember DBZ, Sailor Moon, and oh my God, it's like
Gundam Wing. Batman the Animated Series.
Well, that one's amazing. No, but no,
I know all of them.
No. All those are bangers, but no. In Mexico, the three that were like, oh my God, it's the one about the guys that turn into Zodiacs. Knights of
Saint Seiya.
Saint Seiya, I think.
Or Los Caballeros del Zodiaco.
Sí. Okay. Yes. Sorry. I don't know why. But those three were the ones that were getting dubbed. So I remember like, okay, you'd get an episode or two of Sailor Moon in Spanish, and then you'd get Ranma. You'd get Ranma half, and then you'd get like Mexico programming for kids or young adults was very much, they had like a block. They had a block of programming that was 2 episodes of this, 2 episodes of this, and like an episode of maybe like Saint Seiya or Los Caballeros del Zodiaco, because Los Caballeros del Zodiaco had already been out for a little while. So they were kind of just like phasing that one out, but like having more programming. And that's what I remember. Toonami was probably the first time I watched Cowboy Bebop. It was like that's when I started watching that. So like 90s me was really stuck on like DBZ and Sailor Moon. They were constantly together, and you can understand why, really, when you look at the age range of the fans and like who was out there like really consuming the content. You can understand why they were put together. You got boys right at the start, girls right at the end. You got them.
And we were hooked.
Oh, we were hooked. Like some of us would just deal with it. Like I think the only thing I got pissed off about with Toonami was when they would do Tenchi Muyo after Sailor Moon. And I was like, I don't want to watch this harem shit.
Yeah, I know this is super off topic, but my issue wasn't even just that it was Tenchi Muyo. It was the wrong Tenchi Muyo. Because Tenchi Muyo is one of those shows that there's like 5 different versions. They're all completely different from each other.
Yes.
Yeah, they literally chose like the worst one they could have. I'm going to get canceled for saying this. Tenchi Muyo, the OVA is superior. I'm sorry.
Well, it's funny because I just got canceled earlier for my comment about Bleach, but like we're getting all of us are getting canceled. All of us.
At least they brought that show back. They're fine.
You know, I'm still not sure how I feel about Bleach coming back. I'm not sure how I feel about how they ended it anyway. I'd like 2 different endings. Please, just give me 2 separate endings.
I don't actually remember the ending. I started watching the new one and I was like, I don't know. I thought that guy was supposed to be unkillable, but they just killed him in 5 minutes. So, like, I guess I don't know Bleach. I don't know.
I guess I don't understand
Blood War.
I was like, I guess I don't understand the logic.
No, I was so confused. Like, the thing is, like, in other anime, Sailor Moon is very contained. You have a very specific set of characters. There are 200 episodes, but they're always centered around like maybe 9 characters. And there's just a remake and a classic, and that's it. Then you have like Tenchi Muyo, for example. Nightmare. I have no idea what to watch. Monogatari. I don't know which Monogatari to watch. I hear it's a great show, but like, where do you even start? So Sailor Moon is just also so easy to get into. It's just start on episode 1, bro.
Yeah, don't try that with One Piece.
Did I mention my husband collects One Piece? So half of my Sailor
No,
Moon
you
collection
didn't.
room. So half of the room, we moved, we're rebuilding our anime collection. So half of it is my Sailor Moon collection room. The other side, there's a giant One Piece flag. Like none of it is on my socials. Because it's his stuff, like he can put it on his socials.
I would love a moment where you're like his, hers, like that type of video.
Eventually we'll get there.
Well, because I've seen your collection, and for those who haven't gone on her socials, please go check out Sailor Tortilla. But there's a bunch of TikTok videos, reels, wherever you consume short form content. And the thing that I just find so like astounding is the amount of just merch that you have, collectible that you have. What was the first like shelf items that you kind of had where you had enough that you could put on a shelf? So you were talking about the box, and was that part of the first shelf items, the box of like the Sailor Moon doll that you didn't open, or did you eventually open it? Did you eventually give in to the demon of opening the box?
Yeah, I had an interesting journey because like my collection didn't really start in one place. Like I'm a child of divorce. There's mom's house, there's dad's house. So eventually it turned into, oh, dad has an extra room. I guess I'll just fill it with my stuff. But it wasn't all Sailor Moon. So like in the original Sailor Moon collection room where you see those 3 posters, you could check it out on my social, you'll see it. It used to only be the 3 posters because I was so proud of them. They were from Japan. It was so hard to get stuff from Japan back then. And for me, those were very special. It was the first thing I put up. And underneath it were Gundams. No Sailor Moon, just Gundam. Little model figures. And then eventually they started re-releasing Sailor Moon stuff. And then I was like, okay, it's time to like move stuff to dad's house. Let's actually build this. But it wasn't really stuff. It was those 3 posters, which I actually still have to move them from there. Like they're the first thing and the last thing that's going to go.
Okay. Now, what's funny for me is that's not when I became a collector, because I was just immediately like, let me consume, let me play. Like that was just kind of how I was. I got oh my God, it was the rod from, oh my God, I'm trying to remember what the rod was. It was the moon rod, but it wasn't.
Cutie moon rod. Spiral hot rod.
It's a spiral hot rod. Spiral hot rod. Spiral heart rod.
Hot box. Huh?
It was the spiral heart rod. That was the one that I got because I initially wanted the original, which was the Moonie, which was the one with the silver crystal in it. Could never find it. Got that. And my mom got me that, but it didn't last for very long just because yes, that one. It was exactly that one. And I was like, boost. And I was just like, I eventually broke it because I just wanted to play so bad. And the Sailor Moon doll that I had, she went on a wild mermaid ride and her hair was a hot ass mess by the end of it. But it was like it was just the toys. Those were the only 2 toys I had, mind you. That was it. And I didn't get into Sailor Moon till literally the comic book. So a friend of mine had the single, like they were literally comic books of Sailor Moon. This was before. Those around here too. Yeah, like I don't know how many people remember those, but we went to. I was in Iowa, and we managed to find another one, and somewhere within either it was within there or because it was just the onset of the internet, I was like, oh my God, I have this one from a friend who like, she's not into Sailor Moon anymore. She was a little bit older than me. I think she's like 4 or 5 years older than me. And her mom was just giving stuff away. And in there was either number 3 or number 4 of the book. But I didn't give a shit.
With the group of it, like the group of the girls on it? No.
Okay.
I'm not as good as I thought I was then.
No. I might be explaining this wrong. Let me be clear. I am a horrible collector, so I do not remember things well. But it was her with like the mask. Like it had her with the mask, like tuxedo, like the little mask, and she's kind of lifting it down, and she has a cape, and it's
Like-
just like a yes,
Like
yes,
a pose like
yes, yes, like
not dabbing, I swear.
the dab pose.
It was
dab
the dab issue.
Look,
No, those were
y'all,
great.
yeah, and
Did
it
you
was
know
just
those came out like weekly or monthly?
yes, I did, but like I didn't know what comic book stores were. I was such a young kid. Like and mind you, my friend had it, so I really didn't understand where she got it. And I just was consuming it. And then the TV show and like I said, there's PBS and once you start like searching for it as a kid, like for me, that was just an immediate like girls being badass, but they're friends, but one of them fails class a bunch. Oh my God, this is me. Like I love this. I absolutely loved it. But that's where it started. And when I went to Iowa to visit my aunt, I actually got to go into a comic book store where they had so many issues. But it was either I got an issue of the comic or I got a doll. And I was like,
Oh,
see? So I got screwed because I thought in my head, in my childlike brain, I said, book that may not last, doll that will last just a little bit longer. And so I went for the doll, and that's where I got my Sailor Moon doll, used it, played with it, had it all the time, just so happy. But that was me. Like that was how I engaged with it, experienced it. But to this day, that and the spiral rod, those three items were it. Like even now, into my grand-ass old age of 30, which is not that old, but still, like, I still at 30 can't make decisions on Sailor Moon merchandise.
do you want me to give you like a 20-year late assurance that you did nothing wrong? Because as much as it's like, okay, just the spiral heart rod and the doll and the comic, you didn't have a lot to choose from. It was legitimately maybe one of three wands, those garbage dolls, some little plushies.
I love
I mean,
her.
the frog face dolls, whatever.
I love my garbage patch Sailor Moon.
Because I also had one, and mine was also beat to shit. But it was mostly because I did not value her. Like my spiral heart rod is still in the box. That doll is lost to the ages. But anyway, all this to say, there wasn't a lot of merch. You really like could not get a lot more than that at the time.
I think maybe the only other thing that I remember, and I was like it was really choices. It was choices of, okay, get something that there's chingos of and your parents can actually get, or ask them for something that's just super difficult to try to gather. There's so much merchandise. I think there's a little bit better now, but there's a lot of merchandise and stuff that still is exclusive to Japan, and we will never see in the States unless you know a great person that is like a reseller, I guess is what you'd call them. But I feel like they're a little bit, I don't know, I feel like they're a little bit more ethical. Maybe not all of them, but most of them are a little bit more ethical in regards to like reselling. It's not super crazy. But that's like a neither here, neither there. Like they're still resellers, so they're still trying to make some profit. But at the end of the day, it was like what was there at the time, and just the more I thought about it, it was just so much easier to get fan made items than it was to actually get like actual items. Like I think the only other thing was the heart, the from season 1.
Yes. And well, the funny thing about that toy is
and the locket. The locket.
Yeah. If you look really hard at it, it's a fusion of season 1 and season 2. It's like it's season 1, but it's pink, and then it opened with the crystal inside like season 2. I actually really regret selling that. And oh my gosh, you're gonna die. Do you know how much I spent on most of those original Sailor Moon items?
Well, okay. Like, are you saying like how much you spent at the time, or how much you spent like later on? I don't know. At the time.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say just because they were so hard to get, and I don't know how these people sold them. I want to say, okay, I'm gonna guess high or low. I'm gonna say high.
Okay, so I was there when the books were written. KB Toys was a toy store that closed a million years ago. I bought them at the retail store on clearance for $5 each. The dolls were $5, the wands were $5, the brooch was $5.
So
it
what
was the
we're
only way
saying-
my mom was going to buy it.
So what we're trying to say is that Veronique will never be on The Price is Right because I absolutely screwed the pooch on that. But like even retail price was just a lot for the merchandise.
It was like 25 for the wands, and like a CD at the time was like $11.
Which, let's be clear, for the 90s, that was a lot for merchandise.
Yeah.
Nowadays, people are like, $25, that's fucking cheap. Well, you know what? Keep your damn opinion to yourself. We were poor and we were in the 90s and we were children.
No,
we were children,
$20 was like $100. That's just
$20 is $20.
Yeah. But yeah, they were like 25. I remember this one. This is a bootleg, by the way. That's why I'm swinging it around like a crazy person. But it was like $30 at Suncoast. And that one I had to actually use big teenager money for. No, that was a lot of money back in the day. And I'm still mad that they sell the Proplica releases, which are these beautiful replica quality, like cosplay quality versions of these. They're over $100. And quite frankly, they're all the same materials. Like, sure, LED lights and different kind of plastic, but like really it's just garbage. It's all garbage. Like, terrible. I love these items. I have paid a premium for a lot of items, but I'm also completely willing to admit they are freaking plastic. All of it's plastic. Like, all of it's bad for the environment. Like, I kind of actually feel guilty sometimes about what I'm doing with my life, but
I want you to remember the word. I want you to remember the word sometimes. Sometimes. Other times, I'm Bob Dimmadome. And so, like, it's so interesting because we were talking about like all the different anime that Toonami just really like, because you watch Sailor Moon and it was such a huge like introduction to a lot of people. Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon was such a huge eye-opener, and then Toonami put it on the block, and of course everybody's gonna watch, and then some people just kind of stay on. Like, I remember Code Lyoko, and mind you, I think that was like a French production.
Yes, and Totally Spies as well.
Yeah, Totally Spies.
Which is coming back.
Yes.
I heard it's coming back.
Well, it tried coming back once. It didn't do well. So this is its third time coming back. Let me be super, super clear. This is the third time this show's coming back. And from what I'm to understand, it's supposed to look a lot more similar, and it's supposed to have like the original team back so that they can kind of like go forward. Supposedly, I mean, there's so much revival of properties from the 90s. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, Like, some of it I'm here for, some of it I'm not. But
yeah, they treat them completely differently.
Yeah.
Like Sailor Moon Crystal, its own thing. Trigun Stampede, its own thing.
Its own thing.
Tokyo Mew Mew. Which one?
Shit. I thought of one and I cannot remember it now. No. Oh, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Yes. And then Hunter x Hunter. Like,
yeah.
I feel like every remake has its problems. And some of them are excellent. Some of them are amazing. And I feel like Sailor Moon's remake is, okay, I'll say this. It's polarizing because not everybody feels the same way. But man, did Toei throw $5 at the team and said, make a show for $5. Just do it. That's what it felt like. They were like, we'll put it on the internet. We don't need to put it on TV.
No. They said, here's $250. Wait, you need another $250? And then they heard all the shit. Fine, we'll give you the other $250, but that's it. And then
they had the Korean animators were just like $5, please, $5 footlongs. Sorry, I don't know why Subway is on my mind, but fine.
No, I literally, the moment you said $5, I just said $5 footlong. But
validating, very validating.
Oh yes, it just goes to show that a lot of the things that we watched, that we consumed, really were just so formative. And for me, I used to draw, I used to sketch, but like the first things that I started to draw and sketch were Sailor Moon. And like, to the point that I have a cousin, really close cousin of mine. When I was taking care of her and babysitting her, I'd have her watch the 90s Sailor Moon on the TV, and we would put it on and I don't know where I found it. It was either on some streaming service, or if streaming services weren't around that time, I think it was YouTube, because I think YouTube had it for a hot ass minute. People would just upload it, and I would have her watch episodes, and then she became an artist. Like she went into the arts because she loved the style and she was drawing it. And I didn't know this, mind you. I didn't find out till like 5 years after not babysitting her anymore, because she was old enough and she was good, that she attributed a lot of her drawing stuff to the experience of me introducing her to Sailor Moon, like that first season, those first few episodes. And that just, I was like, whoa, that happened to me, and that's what I gave to someone else. And that's kind of what these shows and the stuff did in the 90s to a lot of people.
Early in 2020, I was in an accident, and the consequences I was living with afterwards was a lot to handle all at once. So if you're like me and trying to recover while trying not to lose your car, lose work and therefore money, and super injured, and have a huge growing stack of hospital bills to pay, then you need a professional to get the care you need. In case of an accident, you need a lawyer to protect your rights and your wallet. And honestly, you don't have to look any further than that simple phrase by going to incaseofanaccident.com or encasodeaccidente.com for a free consultation 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if the person who suffered the accident wasn't you, but maybe it was your tia, your abuelita, or your second cousin twice removed, don't worry. Everyone at encaseofanaccident.com or encasodeaccidente.com can speak Spanish, hablan español, and they can take text messages on WhatsApp at 888-990-0911. Don't forget to tell them that Veronique Medrano from Accordion to Me sent you.
I feel so horrible just continuing to talk about my love of all
No,
this
I
stuff.
love it. I'm hearing it, and it's like, other people have lived my life. I love it.
Well, my
with
question for
Ranma.
you. Oh,
Sorry,
yeah.
eternally jealous of Ranma. Like anybody who saw it as a kid, I'm jealous of you.
Well, it's like, again, I think from my experience, and I think a lot of people who had access to Spanish television, like Televisa, Telemundo, Univision, don't ask me where the hell it was showing. I just
No,
know
it's okay.
it was in
Like I have all
Spanish.
these vague memories of Xuxa. And like here in Miami, of course, Xuxa, like this, she was a Brazilian like kids entertainer. Like it's spelled XU. Anyway, completely aside the point. I don't know how we saw it in Virginia, of all places. Like we had like certain little pieces of like Latino media, but anime was not it. I got Xuxa. So like for anybody who knows who Xuxa is,
Shusha Hive. Shusha Hive Rise.
it's like the beehive.
It's the Shusha Hive.
The Shushis.
Well, so you're in Virginia, you're engaging with Sailor Moon and the content of Sailor Moon. And so my question would be, what did that do at the time? Like take me back to like younger you and just watching it. Like what was the thing that struck you the most about that show? And then afterwards.
Yeah. So as a kid, there were two very major things for me. So Sailor Moon came out here when I was 7. And 7 is like, it's a formative age. You're like a preteen. You're not a teenager. And I was a big fan of Captain Planet, big fan of Power Rangers. Like more than any, like Bandai has taken my money since I was like 4, you know? So there was Power Rangers all in my mind. Power Rangers didn't really touch romance. And Sailor Moon really, really did. The first episode I saw had Moonlight Knight in it. But it was the whole like, oh, she's looking at him with heart eyes and he is kind of sexy and mysterious. And like, you know, you're a kid and you're like having all these strange feelings. But I was like, oh, this is like a movie with romance. Like, you know, you see adult movies and they kiss and whatever. But like, I liked it. I was 7. I was very interested. So first off, it was the romance, absolutely 100% the romance. And it kind of still is. Because that show, like the first season when she's trying to actually get with the dude, like 10 out of 10. By the time they actually get together, like, I don't care about Mamoru anymore. Okay. Part two. Part two of the answer is it was the darkness and the creepiness. The villains were so scary in those first 2 seasons. And it was just the Japanese, like, they don't stray from like very bright color schemes like they did in cartoons here. Like you're right. It was very different. It was very bubbly. You'd have a lot of primary colors. And Sailor Moon, like, of course, they have this beautiful color palette, but they do watercolor backgrounds, and they'd have the evil Queen Beryl, and you'd see she'd have like a horde of people in the background in this watercolor like painting that they don't even move, but you'd see them like people with horns and like red eyes, like creepy. So for me, it was that, because, and you probably can't see it, I could probably move the camera. My favorite movie is Return to Oz. I bring it up because Return to Oz is a movie that scarred a lot of children. A lot of children said it was the scariest thing I ever saw. And the parents said, we shouldn't have shown kids that movie. It's not for kids. But here's the thing.
For me, it was Hunchback of Notre Dame and Candyman, which came out around the same time.
Oh,
and
Candyman's still kind of creepy.
And those were the 2 movies that scared, and I don't know if it is for a fact that they came out around the same time, but I think they did.
Probably.
It was to VHS.
Yeah.
It was around
90s.
it was the late 90s, and like Candyman, somebody was showing it at their house to their kid. I'm like, what the hell? Like I listening to the title was like, oh, okay, and then I sat and I was scared shitless. I was like,
oh, so you didn't like it?
No, I was like, fuck them bees. I didn't say the F word, but if I could have in my tiny child mouth, I would have said, fuck them bees. Should I have been watching that? Was that a thing I did at XYZ age?
But here's the thing. I loved it. I was obsessed. Like there's a scene in the movie. It's a Disney movie. It's made for kids, but there's an actual scene in the movie where there's a bunch of headless women in boxes. It's just their heads. The kids movie. It's on Disney Plus. It's just their heads. Dorothy from like literally The Wizard of Oz. She's spotted by one of the heads, and they all wake up at once, and they all start screaming, like these blood curdling, like women screams, just and she's running, and they're just have heads. They're just screaming. And there was something inside of me that said, oh, I really like this stuff. I really love it when it's scary. So then Sailor Moon came out, and you got like these monsters that are just these hulking women with like plants coming out of them. And I was here for it. I was on board 100%. I was like, yeah, scary stuff in my cartoons.
I'm wondering if it was episode 1. Was episode 1 where Amy's mom is like not Amy's mom? Am I getting that one right? Where they're like,
yeah,
she
Naru.
fails
Her friend Molly or Naru.
Molly.
That's a very scary monster in that episode.
And here's my thing with it though, is they didn't commit to that scariness after that season. They went really camp afterwards. And I can understand why, because if you're trying to hit a general female audience, you're not going to get them. Like that was a really like, holy shit moment. Like you got their attention, but they didn't keep that energy. At least in my opinion, it's because it's for a general audience. Like it may not have tested that great in the US and other countries. And they're like, well, shit, like, yeah, we can keep this in Japan, but if we want to get syndicated or have other places pick us up, we have to figure something else out. So I felt like after season 1, we got really campy monsters, a tennis ball monster, y'all. There was a tennis ball woman monster.
One of my favorites is the one in the supermarket that's just fruits. She has like a pineapple bra or something, or coconuts or something. I love it. And then they also overcorrected in a completely different like direction in season 3 because they got too sexy. They were way too sexy. They had like stars on their nipples, and that's their whole outfit. I feel like that's part of why we didn't get season 3 until the 2000s.
I'm trying to. It was season 3 Hotaru.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Because like I'm thinking about that. Yeah, like a girl. Literally, it was the witches. I'm trying to remember
the
what they're
Witches
called.
5. Yes.
Yeah, the Witches 5 had these crazy, sexy costumes. But then again, you come from. Oh my God, I'm trying to make sure I get this correct. Technically, like there's a bunch of filler, and then you get season 2 with Rini. So like, just be clear. Like season 1 is season 1, but yet it's really long. Like
super long.
like for Japanese audiences, and mind you, now you can watch it on Hulu, or is it Hulu or is it YouTube?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It's on Hulu. And if you like don't have Hulu, Pluto TV streams the entire series.
Okay.
Randomly
So
though.
yeah. So like those, like when you watch and I would really recommend, if you were somebody who watched it in English, that and only watched it with the English dub, check out the Japanese dub or the Japanese audio with the full season, because it just changes the emotion of it. Like I grew such a deep appreciation for Sailor Moon as a canon in my older years. This sounds just so weird and aging, but as I got older, I appreciated it because I was able to finally watch it as it was meant, in the context that it was meant to be watched. And it then explains why so many things happen in later seasons and why Sailor Moon, in my opinion, becomes as strong as she needs to be for the last season. And just from the trailers that we're getting for the final season, I am really happy that they're finally showing us a woman, like she is now a young woman, but she is still a woman. And so you finally see that growth. And I think, like, one of my questions for you as a fellow Moonie is, what do you think that the 90s captured so well? And what do you think that Crystal has captured so well, like individually as like a reboot, and then, the original, as people would call it? And we'll also include the movies, by the way, because the movies do count as part of as part of the original, 90s. I will include the movies because they do add a lot, again, to the characterization that you get in that final season.
Yeah, it's I also really love that point that you bring up about Cosmos, because personally my favorite Usagi is Sad Usagi. I think she is a deeply emotionally intelligent person, even though she like fails her classes or whatever, but like she understands people, and she seems to be a mirror for everything that's going around her. And I feel like that is something that I see in Crystal, that maybe wasn't so, and they do bring it up in the classic show. Of course, it's a huge piece, but in Crystal, it's more about her interior world. It's like her inside world is more important than the outside. Like, yeah, you don't get to see them go to the arcade so much or hang out so much, but you do kind of see the maturity and the growth that was present in the original comic. And I've been very critical of the original comic. Like, I think the story could have used work, and that's why I think classic did so good. But aside from the story, it's that emotional intelligence inside of the character and what's going on to her. And then with classic, it's the filler, it's the characterization, and it's also the comedy. That show makes me laugh so much. And more in Japanese.
The animation for the comedy, it's such a great capture of physical comedy in an animation. Usagi was a physical comedian, and that's just my 2 cents, is that she was really capturing the physical comedy of like Looney Tunes and some of these other like really big animations that we applaud. We applaud for the physical animation or the physical comedy that they exude and that the animators put on the screen. But that was wholly 90s movies. I mean, the girl straight up burnt a bunch of cookies, ate one, and almost broke her tooth. Like, that shit was hilarious. And I think if we're going to talk about what the reason why it's so divisive, I think it's that, like, you bringing it up. Like, I think it's the fact that the comedy is missing, and that comedic aspect. Like, when you think about like what people continue to gripe about, they say, oh, well, like, it's just not like it. And I think that is the essence of the comedy. Like, now we're seeing a more serious, like, Nako was funny, but she wasn't that funny in the manga. Let's be clear. Like, she was not that jovial within the books.
I have a thought about that. Like, so today I went through a couple screen caps of the liner notes in the re-release of the comic book from Naoko. So she's saying, like, 10 years on, this is how I made this character. This is what I think. And I actually had never read those because I didn't know they were new. I thought they were from the old comic, and I completely skipped them. I read them a couple hours ago, and it's funny that she is actually hilarious in those liner notes, just talking from her point of view. And she does criticize her own writing, which is crazy. Like, I thought people were lying to me on a live the other day. I was like, no way. There's no way Naoko agrees with me. Like, no, like, you guys don't even agree with me. And she herself was critical of the writing, but if you read those liner notes, she's a funny lady. She's a fancy lady because she sure likes her Jimmy Choo Chanel collabs that I'm never going to be able to afford. But
is she doing the Chanel collab? I'm very confused as to what all that's about.
There's no official word, nothing at all. But explain to me, why do we have Sailor Moon pictures in a Chanel catalog? Well, why did this happen?
A part of me feels like it was a collection. They had her look at it. They had her look at a collection that was coming out, and they wanted, because Naoko, for those who don't know, a lot of the villain outfits, the Sailor Moon's Princess Serenity dress, like a lot of things were actually things that were on the runway. You can look it up, but like online, like there have been side by sides of things that she is clearly inspired by. You look at the year it was on the runway, you see when it appeared in the book. It literally, there's no other way. There's no other way that would exist.
She's got Dior in there, Mugler. Like, she's a lady of taste. And I feel like that's also why she decided to never do another manga again. Yeah, she's fashion. She's about fashions. But I also feel like that's probably why she never did another manga again. She's like, I just wanted to buy all this pretty clothes.
Like, I mean, I would do the same. I would be like, yes, give me the Jimmy Choo shoe. Actually, I love the fact that somebody on TikTok shows you how to make like a dupe version of the shoe. And I literally want to try. It's like
a sock, right?
Kind of. Like it is a sock, but it was interesting the way they did it. Like, I would love to try. I would love to try to make the shoe, only because then I could be like, mira mis knockoffs. my knockoff los chimichanclas.
Oh my god.
That would be me. That would be me with my knockoff chimichanclas of Sailor Moon. But yeah, so many of the collabs. I mean, there was a Skechers collab that I somehow managed to miss. I was super upset because I love Skechers shoes. I did get the
Don't feel bad. I know why you missed it, because it's why I missed it too. They only came out in China. And they didn't come out in very large sizes.
Oh Lord.
I don't know how big your feet are. I'm not making assumptions.
No, it's like a 9.5. So yeah, there was no way. There's no one in China that has a 9.5 foot. There's no, like, maybe there is, but not for me. Like,
not in this single collab that they probably made 2 sizes of.
Yeah, and
they look so cute though.
Well, I will say this: my favorite collab, which I would love for them to continue. I don't know if it's technically a running collab. I'm a little confused about that. Was the Converse. Like the
But do you mean the Vans?
Yeah, the Vans. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, Converse.
No, you're good. The Vans. You're so good. That was a year ago now.
Yeah, the Vans. But from what I understand, they're still selling it.
So actually in Mexico, of all places, someone spotted them at the outlet store very recently. I feel like Mexico's been getting some really cool stuff. Mexico had an exclusive shoe and purse collab recently with a brand called Loli in the Sky. Never heard of them, but it was really cute.
Loli in the sky with...
Do you know it? Is that real?
Diamonds.
Is that a song? No, it is. Never mind. It's the Beatles. Okay.
No,
I'm not that out of the loop.
No. I was going to say like the Silver Millennium Crystal, but then it was like way too much words, and I feel like the Beatles would sue me, so it's okay.
Even in the dub, they kept saying Silver Crystal just to not say the rest
of it.
Silver
Millennium... damn it. I can't
the Imperium Crystal, the Silver Millennium Crystal, the Silver Imperium Crystal. Different variations.
Like, she just loves crystal.
That's it. That's the secret, right?
She loves crystal. But like, so we get into like this aspect of the creativity and these videos that you love to do, and just the fact that like you were already from a creative home, and the frog doll just went to all shit. But now at this stage of the fandom, now that it's getting that re-release, and now that we're at this place, what are you the most excited for with Cosmos?
Ooh. Yeah, with Sailor Cosmos, it's bittersweet. I'm like really excited to see Sailor Cosmos. Like literally just Sailor Cosmos. Lots of exciting villains too that we never got to see in the original.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, right. Like Heavy Metal Papillon, they just showed her. Chi and Phi, and then there's two more whose names I cannot say. Mennosign and Leth, literally like Greek characters. Anyway, excited for the villains because I'm a villain stan. I love them. They have these beautiful backgrounds in the little preview images of Cosmos that look very different from the rest of Crystal, right? They're like dark backgrounds, darkness in the city backgrounds, like actual locations. They look really beautiful because in the manga is very nebulous. They're floating around. There's not a lot of backgrounds. They're like in space. So I just like to see the characters actually grounded finally in like a fully realized version of that story. Very excited for that, but also I'm not excited. I don't want it to come out because that means that they're done. And I don't know if they're going to continue doing merch, or I'm scared they're going to go into another dark period of Sailor Moon, like between 2002 or 2003 and 2013. We didn't have merch. There was no way to buy the DVD. Like literally there was nothing until they re-released the comic. They put some stores at Hot Topic and they released the first SH figure art of Sailor Moon. I actually do not like that line at all, but I keep that toy in the box because it was the first one of the revival. It was a huge deal to me, and it all coincided with the remake. But now it's ending, and I'm totally scared.
Well, this is something interesting to bring up because I always feel that the whole reason why pretty much after season 3, we didn't get anything is because there was no way to censor that last season, which was Sailor Stars. Like Toonami, or like we'll say even Adult Swim. Like Adult Swim didn't even think, hey, like because we're late night, we can carry it. Because of course it had Cowboy Bebop and some other like.
I have a little insight into that. It had nothing to do with the Americans. It had nothing to do with anybody outside of Japan. Just so we have like the correct kind of timeline of things. Basically, Sailor Moon, we had 2 seasons for a while, and then they released the last 17 episodes of that season 2 randomly, like on a Saturday. And then we did get those season 3 and season 4 eventually, and that's when they made the lesbians were cousins. That's how they got around that. But you're right, they could not censor season 5 like at all because do you know what they did? Do you know what they did in Italy to the Starlights?
No.
Oh my God. I'm very excited to be the one to tell you this. Like really, like the reality is that in Italy, they had a completely different way of solving this. They weren't going to censor that the Starlights were like men turning into women, because like that was the problem, right? Like gay people weren't really on TV at the time. It was a different time. Like people were bigots openly. So they didn't want that. So they said, okay, why don't we say that they have twin sisters who fight, and they call her twin sisters, and those are the ladies in bikinis. Literally in the Italian dub, they call their sisters to come fight for them. And that's how they got around it.
And you're right. It's season 3 was the Hotaru season. Season 4 was Black Moon Circus. I always horse. I don't even want to say what I was thinking of saying. But yes,
like
horse.
I don't want to be one of those like, well, actually, but like it was a messed up time. We waited years for 2 seasons and then never got the last one. And then in Japan, somebody, I'm not saying it's Naoko, maybe it was Toei, but somebody said, we are pulling the license globally, not even in Japan. And then in Japan, they released the live action instead. They took it away from everybody else, said, we'll do a live action. And then they didn't release the live action anywhere else either. So I don't know what they were thinking, but they pulled the license for a decade, like exactly a decade.
Wow, that's insane.
You have been listening to the Accordion to Me podcast, which is made possible by listeners like you rating and reviewing the podcast. Every time you leave us a review, one of your haters loses their wings and their wallet and maybe their keys. So if you love the podcast, leave us some stars and a quick blurb. And if you hate the podcast, send it to your enemies. Either way, everybody wins. Bye.
Having this conversation and then talking earlier about how many different channels it was on and how it hopped around, I think one of the, like, now just kind of like viewing it, do you think that like the reason why Dragon Ball Z has a bigger following than Sailor Moon is because of just how inconsistent the licensing was?
Girl, yes. And it's the same company. It's Toei. Both are Toei properties. So like, yeah, I think that I think a lot of things, and a lot of them are not corroborated in reality. They're just things I think. And I think part of it is also that it was a female focused show. They didn't see the value in reaching kid girls. Maybe it was because of the numbers, but like, I don't know, because Sailor Moon was a global phenomenon. I think Pokemon was probably a bigger competitor to it at the time.
Yeah, I think but here's the thing is like when you take away, so like Pokemon was an ensemble. It had a boy, a girl, a boy, and then just random characters. You know, you get Jesse and James, Team Rocket, blast off at the speed of light. Surrender now or prepare to fight. Anyway, I had to say the whole thing. I'm so sorry. But like you look at the licensing for Pokemon, and it was at one channel for a little while. I think it was WB. And it was there for years. And then it eventually moved. And then it eventually moved.
Actually, it bumped Sailor Moon off of UPN, and for a really long time, kid me thought it was Pokemon's fault. Like, I didn't play the games. I didn't want to play the cards. I didn't want to talk about Pikachu. I was like, this show is the reason my show isn't on TV. And I was like an adult when I played Pokemon for the first time, because I was like, actually, that's wrong. And this game is fun.
Oh my God. I didn't beat Elite Four till I was in my 20s. Like I played it. Yes, high five. Like I was like, I made it as an adult. I did it.
I remember I was 20.
I think it was Pokemon Sapphire. It was the one with the blue thing. I don't even know what it was, like a whale. It was a metal whale.
I'll be lying if is it Lugia? Or is that
no? That's a different game. But like,
Lugia's like a friendly little inflatable toy. It looks like.
Yes, like he was like this little he was this weird creature. But like it was this metal whale looking thing. It looked like a cross between a metal shark and a metal whale. So let's just leave it at that. But I remember like doing Elite Four, beating Elite Four, and being like, okay, I can now not play any more of these games. Of course, then Pokemon Go came out, and then all of us were outside like some fools. But it's okay.
We were not fools. Like, we lived in the golden age. Now they have like, you could do Pokemon Go with like virtual gyms now, and people aren't leaving their house because of it. And it's like, no. The golden age. It was like what, 2016, 2015, something like that?
I think it was 2016. It was the craziest time. I've
never seen anything like that again.
I don't think any game has pulled so many human beings out of their house as that game did. And I get all the safety stuff, but like Pokemon again has such a huge reach, but it goes back to consistency, at least in my mind, that like Dragon Ball Z was consistently on Toonami throughout most of its series, like up until I think it was like GT, and then GT pissed people off, or it was one of those Gs. It was one of them that like,
yeah, no, you're right. It was GT, and then I think it went to Nickelodeon, and then they redubbed it with a completely different cast. I like the original cast, for the record, the Ocean dub.
Yeah, like
it's fine.
Like, but it goes back to the reason it became so big was because it was consistent, and it consistently
it was around.
It was around. It allowed you to go from beginning to end before starting a new cycle or a new season or whatever. Sailor Moon, unfortunately, just suffered from inconsistency, and just kind of getting cut too soon. but one of my biggest complaints is that she was seen as a crybaby in the original. And you were talking about like emotional maturity and just being that smart that way. And Crystal really highlights it on it, but like in the 90s version, I feel like it was censored and edited in such a way that it was just so cruel. Like at no point did I think she should have been friends with any of those chicks. And when she like goes and saves him at the end of season 1, I'm like, nah, girl, just let him die. I was like, nah, girl, just let him die. Ray's an asshole. She tried to steal your boyfriend, or she was dating your boyfriend. I am confused. Y'all just hoes.
You bring up an excellent point. Like, I feel like this has been illuminated for me because you're right. There's a scene where Rei herself, like when they find out he's destined for Usagi, there's a scene in the Japanese where Rei has to deal with that emotionally. It's the part where they slap each other and stuff, but then they have like a moment where it's like, you know, we're together. Like, I'm your friend. Let's go. They cut all that stuff out. You're right. They were always like literally ragging on each other, like roasting each other half the time.
And I think like, what is your favorite fan? Because we were talking about AMVs. What is your favorite Sailor Moon made fan like product?
Ooh, I got a new one. This came out recently. It's called Heavy Metal Sailor Moon. See, can you tell a theme? It's like when it's like dark and scary and Sailor Moon, it's like, I love it. It's perfect. It's like I have Sailor Moon over here and then I have Hellraiser over here. Like there's no in between. It's called Heavy Metal Sailor Moon. It's by, I believe it's by Minerva Fox. You got to fact check me on that one. It's a comic book. It's a 1-volume comic book. And I won't give away anything except that it's a reimagining of Sailor Moon where instead of Sailor Moon being the leader, they made Sailor Saturn the leader. And how did that turn out?
Wow.
Because she's the most powerful. It made sense.
It does. I mean, yeah, she is the most powerful. And even to this day, I feel like Sailor Moon, she's the leader only because she has emotional intelligence, but that's pretty much the only reason. Like the true leader of the Sailor Scouts is someone who is just I mean, for a while I thought it was Sailor Pluto because I felt Sailor Pluto was the one that would wreck shit. Like she could literally turn back time.
She showed up with the instructions. She was like, "Oh, hey guys, I can stop time, and you're in the future, and here are all the characters in the future." She like came with instructions. She was like, "Okay, this is your daughter, and this is your future husband, and the bad guys live on a planet." Like she literally just showed up, explained everything, and then disappeared for years. It felt like
she was like, "So, I'm putting in my 2 weeks. Bye."
Yes.
She's like, "I'm done with y'all shit. You took my man." Like, it was so weird how time and time again, there was an implication that Darien was a slut.
Everybody wanted a piece of him.
And I'm like, y'all, that man is useless. Why do you guys want this useless? Well, I mean,
guys want him. Girls want him. Queens want him.
Monsters want him. Gods. Everybody wants a piece. Everybody wants a piece of the Darien D. So, but like, that's kind of what was really hard for me to kind of reconcile with the English, like just editing, animation, the voice. But like, that's crazy. My favorite. Oh my God, my favorite animation. It's almost like an AMV, but not. I'm sure you've heard of the show. It's a YouTube fan redub of Sailor Moon. And they would put together a bunch of episodes and redub the whole thing. And Ray is just so like if you thought she was
it Sailor Moon Abridged that got taken off?
Yes, it is Sailor Moon Abridged. It was Sailor Moon Abridged.
I quote it all the time. It was so good. The team was really made out of like real fans too.
Yes, and it was literally going, okay, if Sailor Moon and the team were on meth, this is how they would act. They're on different drugs because they ended up doing like that. I don't know if it was that same team, but at the time there was like a huge like in the mid 2000s, because we're in 2020, so let's just say like 2013, 2010, there was this, like, so we went from AMVs, and AMVs kept getting taken down, and so fans then went into, let's do abridged versions of what we would have liked for these shows. We will redub them, we will rescript them. And Sailor Moon Abridged was just one of those shows. It was up there with most popular girls in school, in my very honest opinion.
Ooh, was that the one where they're teen girls and then there's a wave of babies?
There's a no. It's the one that's all
Okay.
dolls. The comedy on that show is up there with Sailor Moon Abridged and DBZ Abridged, and it's just like I just loved it. It was me, and I think that's where a lot of my comedy comes from. The things I like is just like so raunchy and so crazy. And
That sounds
so,
right up my alley.
And
I'll
so,
give you my
like,
favorite quote from Sailor
Yes.
Moon Abridged, though. It's the scene where Darien sees her in his mind and she's trying to summon him, bring me the silver crystal. But instead she says, and bring me a pizza. And I think about it all the time because it should have been in the original. That should have been there. That was funny as shit.
I'm sorry, but if she had said that, I know he would have known it was her ass. She would have given herself.
He could tell with the hair.
I think like that was probably one of the parts in Sailor Moon Abridged that really leaned into how ridiculous the show was, season 1, where it's like, girl, this chick has odongos. Like, Sailor Moon has odongos. Unless that was a popular style at the time. I actually don't know if that was a popular hairstyle for
There's
girls
a
at
fan
the time.
theory. Fan theory is it's a glamour. It's part of their magic. You can't tell who they are because they have an aura. Like, you look at them, but you can't see them. It's like their fingernails. Why did they paint their fingernails and then put gloves on them?
I don't know, actually. That's actually the wrong decision. But you know what? You know what's interesting? What you're saying that is that, like, I really enjoyed, and maybe that's kind of some of the things that I wish, once I figured out that the live action existed. If you don't know, there is a live action version of Sailor Moon. There's the live action plays. There's the live action, well, plays / musicals. There's so much
they're
live
musicals.
action versions of it. But the thing I really like the most, that I do wish was incorporated into the animated show, was the difference in hair. So,
Yes.
like,
The live
if-
action, like, don't get me started. It's my favorite version of Sailor Moon.
I haven't watched enough of it. I don't know where to watch it. So, but like the few pieces I've gotten to see on YouTube, one of the biggest like things for me, and why I really do understand why so many people love the live action as well, is because there was a clear distinction between Usagi the person and Sailor Moon. And back to the hair, Usagi had black hair. So when we're saying, oh, the villains couldn't figure out who she was, well, no shit. Like, she literally had hair that looked like everybody else. And when she would transform, she would get the blonde hair with the odongos that we all knew. And that just made the most sense as to why people didn't know it was her. Do I wish that that was incorporated in the anime? Of course. Of course, because then so many things would make sense. Like, so much shit would make sense as to why villains couldn't recognize her outside of her transformation. But with animation, you just got to have a suspension of disbelief and go on from there. You really do. Like, there's no other thing that you could possibly do. And so
I know where you can watch the live action.
tell
I
us
know everything.
Tell the people.
There's a website called Miss Dream. It's a fan project. They have their own subtitled version of it. And you can just head to Miss Dream, find the live action. They've also got the musicals as well. So great website, great place to go. Good people.
Now, going into, like, we have anime, manga, or comic for some people, Crystal, live action, movies. What is your favorite episode or favorite favorite, like top 3. We'll go with the top 3 Sailor Moon pieces of content and what episode or what season.
Okay, I'll do my best to get this straight. I've got to put the Sailor Moon R movie. I love that Mamoru has a gay love interest. I think that's super interesting. I love that he's an alien. The alien season, little alien arc, those are my favorite episodes. So Fiore, Mamoru, all of it. I love it. It's also directed by the guy who directed Utena, which I love. He also directed season 3, but Sailor Moon R movie, it's got to be like number 1. And then I really love the live action. I think it's a really excellent show, and I don't want to give you spoilers, so I'll be vague. Princess Sailor Moon. This means something to people out there. Not Princess Serenity. Princess Sailor Moon.
Okay.
There's a moment in the show where there's a different version of Sailor Moon who appears. She has an excellent intro. Power Ranger explosions. Queen Beryl's there. She's shocked. I'm shocked because I'm like, what is Princess Sailor Moon? And it's exclusive to the live action.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like halfway through. So good.
Okay.
So good. Game changer.
So Princess Sailor Moon,
Ooh.
everyone. That's her favorite part of the live action.
Yeah, it's like it's not a typo. It's Princess Sailor Moon. And then I think I have to give like an honorable mention to, like, for me, the new I hate mentioning something new, but the new musical based on the second movie. It's also based on a comic where Luna falls in love. She becomes a person. The new musical that they did of that, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the fact that they had actual set design. I don't even think that people could sing that good, but like there's something about it. There's something there. But like there's also a musical where like, okay, I don't know what it's called. There's a moment I really like. So I guess I have to like say the musicals in general. But there's one where there's cats from the same planet that Luna and Artemis are from. They show up. I know. They're like little kittens. They're actors. Of course, they're actresses. But they're little kittens and they're characters. And then bad things happen to them. And I just, it's good. It's good. It's very good. Like, it's terrible, but it's good. It's good because it's creative. Like, that's the thing about Sailor Moon musicals. They're terrible. They're actually terrible. Like, don't think it's going to be like a Broadway thing. It's going to be like a high school thing with a black background, maybe a projector, and maybe they'll do a couple costume changes. Like, Japanese theater can be amazing. Kabuki theater is awesome. But whatever they did for Sailor Moon was cheap and horrible until that brand new one about the cats. It's really, really, really good. And it looks good. Sorry, that was really, really long-winded. So it's Sailor Moon R, Princess Sailor Moon from the live action. I don't remember what episode it was. And then the musicals in general. It's like a lot. I really like Sailor Moon.
Like, my favorite things from Sailor Moon was the music in the English version. That song, there comes a time when you face the darkest of fights. That song at the, like, the moment you mentioned Fiore and that song, oh my God, I wanted to believe in the power of love, okay?
That's like, still stuck in my head.
That chick, like, that music, all of that slaps, slap. And it was up there with Pokemon, Gotta Catch 'Em All. It was up there with just that, like that music that was remade for those shows, that they were OSTs that were made for those particular shows because they didn't want, I don't know why, but they were
original productions. So like there's no Japanese counterpart to The Power of Love. Like there's songs that played in Japanese, but they're very different. They're very good, but they're very different. And I love that the music in that original dub, whole thing slaps. My Only Love, I cry every time.
Oh
Rainy
my
Day
God.
Man.
Someone shoot me.
Carry On, when she's fighting Queen Beryl, that song is metal. That song is metal AF.
Oh, fuck. Dude,
so good.
My Only Love was so heartbreaking because, like, she's like, They did such amazing musical production and selection, creation, however you want to call it. Yeah, like picking the right vocalist, the right band, the right people to really give you that emotional like impact. Like, yes, do not get me wrong, the sub, watching it subtitled and hearing, the Japanese, like just their version of what they put in there, it's great. But I will say this for season one and going into like the movies, damn, like they chose the right people. And so, speaking of the original music, how do you feel about the announcement that the original song is now going to be the song for the opening of the new movie?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I mean, I love hearing that song in any form, any way, shape, or form.
Do you
And it's
think
sang
we will
by-
get?
Uh-huh.
Do you think we'll get the English version though? Now that
No,
they're
absolutely
doing that,
not. Never,
Oh,
never in
no!
1,000 years.
Why?
No one
Damn
owns
it!
the license to it. Nobody owns the license to it. Naoko Takeuchi herself has said she's very much like Hayao Miyazaki in the fact that they both don't want any editing, any editing of anything they ever made, and that's their right. So, God, I wish, but if
But
they do
not
dub
fighting evil by moonlight, winning love by
No.
daylight. No.
yeah, if they do dub it, they'll do like an English version of what they're saying in Japanese. So,
Wow.
nah, that song's great though. Love it. 10 out of 10.
What is something that you learned from Sailor Moon?
Ooh. Basically, it has to do with Usagi, and it was more about your value is not in your accomplishments, right? Because she's not an accomplished kid. She was kind of a failure, but she was a good person. And I think that's what's important. It's not about like getting straight A's. Like for me, I was watching it as a kid. I'm putting it in kid terms. But for me, it was that I can be myself and still like without achieving anything, like still have achieved something in life. Like basically like Usagi does nothing. Usagi does nothing. But she's a good friend and she's a good person. And that's all you need out of somebody. So for me it was the like, yeah, I can be myself and I can like mess up and I can probably save the world at the end of the day. Even though I didn't really like accomplish anything. It's like I'm trying to like boil down. I have a long story about this. I'm trying to like take
No,
it
no, no.
and squash
No,
it.
say it. I'd love to hear it.
Long story short, I got rejected from a private school because I showed up to the interview. I am a very good test taker. I don't know why. I'm just good at selecting all the multiple choice things. I watched kids with far lower scores than me. I had like a 99 percentile on the SAT score, which is insane. Like, I'm insane. I watched kids with 60 scores get in because I knew at the interview when the guy asked me, who's your role model? He wanted a Rosa Parks. He wanted a George Washington. He wanted an Abraham Lincoln. And what he got was Sailor Moon because she can save the world and still be herself at the end of the day and make jokes and laugh. And I did not get into that freaking expensive private school. And the dumb kids got in. And I was so mad because they were rich. And then I learned about economics and social injustice. And I really like politics as an adult. So all of this, like this one moment in my life, all of it, Sailor Moon, politics, why are these stupid rich kids getting into the school? Everything in one moment in my life all came together.
And how do you feel Sailor Moon saved you?
Ooh. Honestly, it gives me something to do. If I didn't have this hobby, I mean, I'd probably find something else to do. I'd probably do videos or podcasts or something, but I don't know. For me, having that collection room, like I don't have a lot of dreams. Like I don't want kids, I don't want grandkids, I don't want any of that stuff. I just want my pretty shiny things and to organize them, and that's it. And hopefully be a decent person and like meet people, and that's about it. And I feel like all of that are like values in Usagi as a person specifically. So yeah, Sailor Moon is so important. It's so important because it illustrates things without being overt. It's not like, okay, kids, be nice.
It's not preaching to you.
Say please. Yeah, it's just like you watch it, you live it, you see the other characters react to it, and then you recognize that it's okay. You don't have to be the smartest kid in school. You don't have to get in that fancy private school.
One thing
Still
gone
mad.
too soon. Sailor Moon says it should have been kept forever.
Just for fun. Just for fun.
I
Should
wish
make shit up.
it's Sailor Moon says should have just lasted for eternity, in my opinion. And so, to wrap up this beautiful interview, I would like to say that the thing that really saved me throughout my life was Hotaru, and it was in the Black Moon Circus arc when she is like, "I am the sleeping you inside of you," and that phrase, that scene, that whole like
With the music.
even in
la, 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 la. Yes, yes.
even with the manga, like that was so visceral for me because I'm an only child, so I could really relate. Hotaru was an only child. And it's like, yay, only children.
Me too. High five.
And
let's go. Okay.
And a lot of the times you talk to yourself. And so, in essence, her talking with herself, and as I've gotten older, I've realized that maybe some of the conversations I have with myself, and it might sound super hokey, is with a version of myself that is not here, that's not in this plane. So like Hotaru was talking to a future version of herself, a version in a different timeline, in a sense, that was already born, like that was already at its full maturation, that was speaking to her, telling her, okay, it's time to wake up. It's time to express and put forth your potential. And like sometimes, like a lot of people say, oh, if you can't love yourself, then, how can you express that love to the world? And to me, that could even go so far as, if you can't believe in your dream and in yourself and in your potential, the whole world can tell you that you have all of this potential and all of this worth. But if you don't believe it in any percentage or facet, you will stay unrevived, unreborn. You will stay in the same state that you're in. Like Hotaru could have stayed in that same child state for as long as she wanted, but she realized that she was needed and that she was important and that her potential needed to be fulfilled. And in doing so, she revived and brought that energy to the people around her. And so that is just such an important scene because of that. And it's something that always stuck with me, is that whenever I feel like I'm in the deepest depths of my depression or the deepest depths of doubt, I always remember that, like awaken the sleeping you. Like I am the sleeping you inside of you, and I will, I have the strength to carry us. And that's just such a beautiful, beautiful thing that just kind of keeps me and holds me in those spaces. And so to end our podcast, I always ask my guests this: what is life accordion to you?
Ooh, I'm not ready. What is life? Life's really long. Oh man, it's like asking someone why do people go to war?
Well,
my God, answer it in 2 sentences, please. No. I think life is, and I'm trying to get really deep. I'm a literature major, so like I could pull from other people, but my own interpretation is it's about luck. Like the fact that we're here at all, it's just luck. Like life is nothing. It's everything. It's like we are here and there's so many people who are not here. So it's like, I just view it as luck. Like the fact that you're here at all is just happenstance. The whole universe, like atoms collide and, stars explode and whatever. Like it's just, it's luck that any of us are here. Like we just got to be happy that it's happening at all. So I guess luck is kind of like my personal answer to that.
So what is life accordion to Sailor Moon?
Love. It's the power of love.
You've got to believe in the power of love. You got to believe in the power
It's
of
literally
love.
so good.
It is so
It's so
good.
good.
It is so good. But thank you guys so much for watching another wonderful moontastic episode of Accordion to Me. I am your host, Veronique. And as always, puro amor, puro besos, puro Sailor Moon. Mwah! Bye!
Thank you for listening to Accordion to Me. The team behind this week's episode includes mixing and editing by Juan Pablo Diaz, theme music by Rodrigo Montalvo, produced by Javi G from MD Media. In-person recordings were done at the Spotify studios and remotely through Riverside FM. Accordion to Me is distributed through Anchor, and you can stream Accordion to Me wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. I'm your host and executive producer, Veronique Medrano. Puro amor, puro besos, puro Tex-Mex.